Hello. Thank you for tuning in to my official channel, Reverend MeeLing. I have also labeled it as the Ornery PSA. And, with such orneriness, that's O as in Omega, R as in Romeo. Oh, I apologize. O as in Omega, N as in November, E as in Echo, R as in Romeo, Y as in Yankee. Oh. PSA, or public service announcement, is the other aspect of my official YouTube channel. I've been known by a few different names. My author name is what I've gone by for a long time before actually going through with publishing books. So most individuals knew me as Susan MeeLing. Whether they knew that I had my reverendship, that is irrelevant realistically. Because are you going to say you would treat me differently knowing such? I'm going to treat you exactly the same one way or another. As long as, you don't have actions that warrant where I balk back or clap back, I'm gonna be, just as nice one across the other. And the more common name that I've been known by, especially in regards to modeling, is Lady Dori Belle. And I've never hid that at all. I mean, whether on Facebook or FetLife, that never hid that. Never hid that. Not that I could, realistically. So, in turn, in what I was speaking about before, there was an emergency alert because today, the 25th of May, 2020, right now it being 12:24 and it raining and thundering out, possible flash flood warning, all that stuff, as you can hear. Anyway, so in that I was discussing what I did not have to do legally in reference to my ex-in-laws. Now, my biological family had already been as they had, specifically my biological mother and my biological sister. In regards of my ex-in-laws, my ex-sisters-in-law, both of them, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen and Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, whatever their particular aspects in reference to what they had done in regards of different abuses of the government entitlement system for certain aspects, for low income and whatnot. And there's nothing against that. It's when you go against the rules and stuff like that and take it away from people who actually need it. And so I would guesstimate my nieces of Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, even her son, had found out that their credit had been destroyed because of Susie Marie Nichols Lopez having gone and utilized the credit of theirs to open power accounts. And so Susie Marie Nichols Lopez had convinced her parents to declare bankruptcy. Chapter 13, I think it is what it was, and had tried to convince me through my now dead ex-husband. And despite the conversations I dealt with, I refused. I did not want that at all. And what was explained to me as far as that was concerned, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez said, oh, you could open a bunch of accounts and then, just max out the different cards and stuff like that, and then, do all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I think that's illegal to do that. If that's not illegal, that should be. That should be very illegal. And no, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, that just seems dumb. That seems really stupid. I think that there'd be a lot of individuals and groups that would be upset with that. And so in that whole whatever, later, it wasn't until 2013 I found out about my identity theft in regards to it beginning the month that my dead ex-husband died. Like, I don't know I think the specific date on one of the accounts was the 30th or the 31st of January 2008. And it's like, just saying, it's a little bit too much of a coinky-dink for me to ignore that. But I didn't find out about that until May of 2013. As far as that sort of stuff. Now, I would guesstimate there are plenty of military guys especially, though also law enforcement and fire department, who would know that what I did as an ex-wife to my dead ex-husband, as far as like his remains and all that sort of stuff, I didn't have to do. As far as what I did in regards to my children and moving from San Antonio, Texas to Carrollton, Texas, I didn't have to do. I did not have to do that at all. Despite that, I would guesstimate there's certain aspects where, because of that entitlement sort of mentality from my ex-in-laws, that they would think arrogantly that because I chose to do that, that they were entitled to that when they were not ever entitled to that. That wasn't something I had to do. I didn't legally have to have my dead ex-husband buried in the Dallas-Fort Worth National Cemetery. I could have very much had him buried in the San Antonio National Cemetery or the Fort Sam Houston or whatever it is instead. However, I chose to have it in the Dallas-Fort Worth National Cemetery because of my ex-mother and specifically ex-father-in-law. Specifically because I knew that he would not drive. And that also for my ex-brother-in-law and his family, because I knew that they already had a long drive from Oklahoma to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then having all of my ex-in-laws in my house in San Antonio, that would have been even more of a bunch of problems that I just kind of figured, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm just saying, all of my ex-in-laws, specifically my two ex-sisters-in-law, would have automatically stayed at the house. And then that would mean my ex-mother-in-law and then her dogs that she would automatically bring. And Grandpa Nichols wouldn't have gone. And that's something that I felt that was a really big issue to make sure that I handled correctly. Now, with that, and then all the stuff that transpired when at the Dallas-Fort Worth National Cemetery, everything regarding Laurel Land Funeral Home, my ex-sisters-in-law, I don't think they understood that that was not something that had to be done. I mean, I did tell them that. And Susie Marie Nichols Lopez later on acknowledged she had been informed from other Gold Star families that she spoke with that what I had done was not the most normal thing to do, especially as an ex-in-law. And so with her own discussions with other Gold Star family members, although I don't really know how she got into that aspect, nonetheless, she had discussed how the other Gold Star family member said most exes will not do that. And so it was just one of those, she had an inkling of an understanding. Now, as far as Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen is concerned, I don't think she ever understood how I didn't have to do that at all. Not just in regards to the funeral aspects, but also the moving from San Antonio to Fort Worth, Dallas area. I mean, not that I moved to Fort Worth, I moved to Carrollton, because anybody who has exes understands you don't want them just popping over at like unannounced. No, that's cool. That's cool. Despite the fact that we're, you know, on an okay level, don't just show up unannounced. They just no. Don't do that. Don't do that. No. And that's what she would do. At her mom and dad's house, she would just show up. And it's like, yes, I'm going to move a minimum of 45 minutes away. Going to make it an hour just to be safe. And to be absolutely certain, I'm going to live off of a toll road. So that way I can get an extra bit of security on that. And I found out I was accurate on that, because when I had my housewarming party and Susie Marie Nichols Lopez showed up, her first thing she complained about was the amount of time it took to drive out to my house. The second thing she complained about was the fact that I lived off of a toll road. And I was like, oh well. Not my problem. Win right there. Win. Although if I had gone as far as Richardson, that would have been even more tolls. Nonetheless, I didn't want to live in a homeowners association. And there was just very few houses in the vicinity that had no homeowners associations. And I just, nope. I learned my lessons through my house in San Antonio. In a military town, and you want to say in the covenant that you cannot have firearms? I don't think so. Absolutely not. Nope, I don't think so. Nope, nope. No. I don't think so. That's not okay at all. So, as far as like my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, when she found out that I had moved to the Carrollton, Texas area, part of her issues were the fact that I wasn't as close to Fort Worth. I was like, it's not like anybody was going to drive out to where I live anyway, unless I lived closer. And no. And then, you know, I drive out to Fort Worth. Nobody drives out to where I'm at. Nobody's ever driven out to San Antonio when I lived there to see my children, except for one time at my house in San Antonio. The other time was when my son was born. They drove out to the apartment complex. Other than that, they never drove out to San Antonio. And so I didn't have to do it. Actually, I did not have to. They didn't continuously make the effort, ever. They never, ever made the effort, even back then. And so it was one of those, I don't have to live in any place I don't want to. And if you don't like it, I don't care. At this point, it is what it is in regards to this apartment complex. Because I have a feeling, hypothetically, my next door neighbors and then, you know, the ones underneath me have a certain issue in regards to my Medal of Honor art project and that sort of thing. And so it's like, okay, you know, my aspects of responsibility and making sure that I get where I can as far as the information for what's needed. Okay, no problem. I'll do what I can. And then, make sure that that's taken care of as best as I can. However, that is more of a legal obligation. Ish. I mean, I didn't technically have to, but because I wrote what I wrote, yeah, I did. So, in reference of my ex-in-laws, when it came to the Florida trip, I don't think my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, understood that that was not a legal obligation for me to stop in Georgia at all. I don't think she understood that. I think that she made the mistake of thinking that because I discussed going out there, that I have to do that tomorrow. And so, nonetheless, I didn't have to. I did not have to at all, in any way, shape, or form, go and stop there. I chose to, because, the only time my son and my daughter had ever spent time with my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, had been in a funeral setting. They had never spent time with her before. Ever. Same thing with her two daughters, Sandra Marie and Ariel Marie Osteen. Never. At all. While Marissa Marie, my niece that went with, she had some interactions with them before. Not my children. They had not. And so, I think that there was a misunderstanding in regards to not just my choice in reference to the funeral, and then afterwards in regards to what I did in getting answers for certain aspects of the certain issues involved. However, as far as my dead ex-husband's death, I don't think they understood. I was only going in certain regards for Grandpa Nichols' understanding, for Grandma Nichols' understanding, and for my ex-brother-in-law, Tony Walker Nichols' understanding. Everything else, of course, my son and my daughter, the memorial service, for them to be able to see the soldiers and stuff like that. And it wasn't, and let me clarify, it was not to denounce all of the veterans that were there at all. It was to also see the soldiers in uniform, and again, not denouncing the soldiers that were there at all, whatsoever, but them also being able to see the aspects of what once was called Medical Hold Unit when I was in, now Warrior Transition Unit. And they're still medical hold units, but nonetheless, that's a whole other ball of wax. So, with the aspects that my ex-sisters-in-law did not understand that what I was doing in regards to going up the chain of command. It was not just for the memorial service. They did not see that. They did not know about that. That wasn't any of their business, realistically. I did discuss certain points as I got further up the chain of command. But the stuff that was going on had realistically nothing to do with them. It was to make sure that the different soldiers were able to be taken care of, and their families able to be taken care of. That had nothing to do with my ex-sisters-in-law. My ex-brother-in-law, his military service, he understood certain aspects of that, and we did discuss that. When I took my children up to Oklahoma a few times, he and I would go out to the shed, and we would stand in the shed talking for hours. I mean, hours talking. And, there were a few times where he had asked certain things when it came to what I did when going up the chain of command, and I had explained it. And he was like, what? You did what? I was like, yeah, I just walked into the general's office. And he's like, what did you just say? Oh, I walked into the general's office. Okay. I'm gonna smoke a little more. Good. Yeah, you tell me how you walked into the Well, I walked in. One foot in front of the other. God. Oh my God. Go ahead. Tell me more. Oh my God. You just walked in. Yeah. Well, you know what a blue ID card is. Yeah. I just walked in, and he's like, go ahead, tell me more. No problem. He very much was the only one in that family. Even my ex-father-in-law did not know about the meeting in the two-star general's office. Like, he knew I had gone in there. He knew that I had discussed certain things and was able to get some stuff taken care of. But Tony was the only one in the family. As far as my ex-in-laws, he was the only one in the family who knew about that meeting with the two-star general. Because he was just like, you gotta tell me. You gotta tell me how that went. Okay, well, And so, I told him the whole thing, and he's just like, and he did what? And I was like, yeah. So I'm gonna give a little reenactment in this regard of that, because I did this in Tony's shed. Hold on, let me get the little bench type of thing. So I go up to the office and I walk in after going everywhere else that I had gone, and I go up to the desk. I'm like, yes, I'm here to see the general. And the receptionist was just like, oh, he's in a meeting. Oh, okay, I'll wait. What? Yeah, I'll wait. Yeah, he's in a meeting. Okay, sure. Okay. I'll wait. No problem. And so... How long is this meeting going to be? Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. I'll just sit over here in one of the benches and I'll just read a magazine until he's out of his meeting. Okay. And so I went over and I'm sitting against the wall. The wall is similar color to this, by the way, so I do not camo with my hair. That is for certain. And so I'll just, I'm just reading a magazine. At that time, I'm pretending this book is a magazine. And so this first soldier comes over and he's like, hey, buddy. And I'm reading like this and I'm like, are you talking to me? And the guy, he was like an E7 and he's like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, just reading a magazine while waiting for the general to have a meeting with. Well, what you want to speak with the general for? You're not a general? No, I'm an E7. So you're not the general? No. Okay. When the general gets here, I'll speak with the general. Have a good one. Aw, you could tell me, buddy. Have we hung out before? Well, no. Tony was like having to hold on to the counter, laughing hysterically at this point, and I'm just like, and so then the the general assistant or whatever, he goes, come on, you're not the general, so well, you could tell me. I could. So you're going to tell me? Oh, no. I could. but I'm not gonna. Well, why not? Because you're not the general. That's why. So then, the guy got all frustrated and he stomped off, and then like the mean one came over. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just, and 3, 2, 1, irony. And the mean one, he comes over and he's like, what do you want to speak to the general for? You're not a general. You better, and he closed the magazine I was reading, puts it down, he's like, you're gonna tell me. No. I picked the magazine back up and I went back to reading. And guy pushes the magazine back down and I'm like, yes, you want my attention. How may I help you? You're going to tell me blah, 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 blah. Tony is laughing hysterically. He's just, I can't believe that I don't have it. So, I told, you know what you look like to me right now with your rah, rah, rah. And, what? Like a little kitty. A little fluffy kitty that could fit in my hand. And a little fluffy belly. Who's your fluffy kitty? Who's your fluffy? Who's your fluffy? Use your fluffy. You good, you little fluffy. Use your fluffy belly. Tony is just barely able to stand at this point laughing, and I'm just like, you're gonna tell me. Oh, do the kitty. What's a kitty? Well, needless to say, the big Gurrar could not keep a straight face at that point. And then walked off, and I went back to reading. And magically, the 2-star general walked in. And I'm like, okay, so he's gonna pretend he doesn't see me. Against a white wall. But okie dokie. And he did. He just, it's like, yeah, horse blinders on. Okay. And 3, 2, 1. So I understand you would like to speak with me. Yes, General. You ready to go into your office? Fantastic. Let's go. And so then explain the rest of what occurred and that whole thing. And Tony was just, oh my God, you did what? And I was like, well, But I got the answers. I got the ability for my son and my daughter to be able to go to the memorial service and so on and so forth. And, Grandpa Nichols and Grandma Nichols and the rest of you guys, you got the answers in that regard as far as certain things. And I had told him I'd return the Bronze Star later on. And Tony was just like, oh. I'm like, yeah. He goes, I get it. I'm like, okay. But, face to face. Not gonna BS you. Not gonna sugarcoat. He's like, I appreciate you letting me know. I was like, I don't think that it would be right if I didn't. So, that's just the way things went down. And that conduct becoming of a soldier, as far as the commendation, that's not how things are done nowadays. Not for a Bronze Star. And Tony was like, yeah, I know. I was like, okay. Do you have any questions? I was like, nope, but that isn't awesome. Awesome you did that. It's like, whatever, it is what it is as far as that stuff's concerned. The stuff that needed to be handled was able to be handled. that stuff was taken care of the way it needed to be taken care of. And it is what it is. And so where Tony understood and his wife Gail understood in a lot of ways as far as the varying things that I didn't have to do, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez and Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen did not seem to understand that. And more so in regards to, in a lot of ways, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen. I don't think she really understood that all the things that I didn't have to do at the time. Like, whatsoever. And so, in this particular aspect, it's one of those, while there may have been that misunderstanding, at some point in time there had to be that clarity. Like, there had to be that moment where I don't have to. There is no legal obligation. There wasn't even a legal obligation back then. That was completely a moral and ethical choice. Set of choices by me. I didn't have to. However, I think in that regard, there was that mistaking that because I chose to do those things, that they thought that they could manipulate certain things and get me to do certain. They didn't. they didn't get that success in that regard. They did not get the success of me doing everything that they wanted me to. And then when everything that occurred as far as my daughter, because of what occurred at McCoy Elementary School in Carrollton, Texas, and Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, none of what I had done had mattered to them. There was not the assistance in that regard, no matter what I did. It was just one of those, oh, well, that's inconvenient, this is that, and it's like, like, I'm not understanding why, and well, we don't owe you anything, was one thing that I was told by my ex-sister-in-law, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez. And I was like, okay, by technicalities, I mean, other than you do still owe me for that flight I paid for. However, you're right, you don't owe me anything. By technicalities, in your mind, in your view. If you actually knew certain things, you'd actually understand how much you actually do owe me. But I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to. It's a waste of my breath. And I prefer to use my breath in better ways. And she was offended by that, and it's like, it's the truth. I have tried explaining to you. There are other people who have tried explaining to you. I don't have to. I don't have to explain this to you. You're either going to accept this reality or you're not. And if you choose not to, that is your choice. But that's also the definition of insanity in that regard. And Susie Marie Nichols Lopez did not take kindly to that. I don't care. I've been called worse by people I actually respect. And don't respect in later times, but, people that, despite how the things transpired with that 2-star general, I still respect that. Like, the different guys in that office still respect that. I understood why they were trying to get me to explain what was going on. They weren't, and obviously did not get the answers until afterwards, but I still respected those guys, and even the bigger rar guy, he'd hurt worse. By realistic standards, being called a cute little fluffy kitty was probably the nicest thing that anybody had in regards to military connection aspects being called. by realistic standards, when you think about basic training, when you think about AIT, when you think about going over and doing whatever jobs and stuff like that, like by all accounts, that was like the nicest thing that he probably was ever called. Despite the way I did it, still probably the nicest thing ever, comparatively. And so, after a certain point, with the lack of anything, any assistance, that sort of stuff in regards to them actually being there for my daughter. I mean, yeah, when it came to my son, because he carried on the legal last name and all that stuff, yeah, okay, no denying that. They did. But only for the last name. That was it. They completely neglected the fact that I had two children. I had my son and I had my daughter. And when it became more and more of a problem, more and more of a hassle, it was like, you are not worth this. I have enough stress as to what's going on. I do not need any additional stress. And I've already been dealing with enough. I don't need that. And so, before ever moving from Carrollton, Texas to Cedar Park, Texas, I had not spoken with them, meaning my ex-sister-in-law, Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, and my ex-mother-in-law, probably 2.5, 3 months by that time. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe 4 months. And, as far as my daughter being in the going back and forth and driving from Carrollton to Cedar Park, the combination of the Denton behavioral health time, all that sort of stuff, they didn't reach out. I didn't reach out. It was one of those, all right. The last time they had seen my son and spent time with him, which again I had to drive my son out there, was when they went to Arizona for the the art project thing, the presentation. And so after that, there was maybe one other time where I drove out to them. They didn't drive out to me, ever. So realistically, there was no legal recourse in regards to grandparent rights, because you have to drive, you have to make the effort in that regard. And so while I'm sure that there was some entitlement feelings, if you actually made the effort, and I didn't speak with Grandma Nichols except for in person. That was it. She didn't call me. It was only in person. And so, that was it. So when moving out to Cedar Park, which by that time, by the time I moved out to Cedar Park, it was about the second month or the third month that my daughter was in Merrill Creek. And I didn't know that there was a time restraint in regards to residential treatment care facilities and insurance. So by the time I moved out there in June or July of 2010, I hadn't spoken with them a long time. And then, and the only time I ever spoke with Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen was at the 2 funerals, as well as when I drove out to Georgia. That was it. And then when I was in Florida for a little while, as far as since you're, living and that sort of stuff, you need to stop by and see great-grandma Nichols. And I got guilted into that sort of thing, and fine, okay, I'll do it, for great grandma Nichols, not for you. Understand that. Understand and comprehend that is for great grandma Nichols, my son, my daughter, and my niece. That's it. It is not for you. Understand that. And so I hadn't spoken with Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen since 2009. We didn't talk on the phone. We didn't hang out at all. And so if there was an attempt in that regard, no, there's no legal recourse in that. And then when it came to 2012, towards the end of the year of 2012, where I had to sign the paperwork and stuff like that and get that going, and I had to reach out to my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, because of what the CPS workers had told me in that regard. Later in 2013, I only did that because of legal obligation. That was not any other aspect. And wrote what they told me to write, they looked at it, they verified it was correct, and that sort of stuff. And so, it was one of those, I did not have to do all the stuff that I did, with the exception of that CPS aspect in regards to the legal parental rights. I didn't have to do anything else as far as my ex-in-laws were concerned. And in turn, if they felt that they were entitled to causing problems for my son and I afterwards, because of their bitterness for them choosing not to do what was necessary the way I did, and in turn, problems for my Medal of Honor art project, well, they weren't entitled to that either. And if, hypothetically, if my ex-sisters-in-law, specifically Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen and Susie Marie Nichols Lopez, went as far as contacting their local elected officials, I wish that I could feel as though they would have told them the truth. I wish I could. I have a feeling that they probably didn't. I have a feeling that they did not at all. And so, and both Susie Marie Nichols Lopez and Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen were told in person that I had returned the Bronze Star. Let me also add that. I did go to Oklahoma to make sure that Tony knew. So, there is no misunderstanding on that. And so, if they lied, that is their issues to deal with legally, obviously. But I didn't have any legal obligations to them whatsoever, despite what they probably felt they were entitled to. And if they complained to their children weren't entitled to anything either, realistically. My son and my daughter, myself, yes. Yes, there were and are entitlements in that regard. But that doesn't extend outward towards my ex-in-laws. And I think, hypothetically, the only one that actually fully stands that, and understood that, are my two ex-brother-in-law. My children's biological uncle, Tony Walker Nichols, and my ex-brother-in-law by marriage, David Osteen, who was in the Air Force. So I just wanted that clarification in that regard. You guys have a good